What was your OHH? So that's what it was for moment. That took you too long to find out. Those little green swords at Starbucks. I had no clue what they were used for until I was complaining one day that my coffee gets all over the lid when I walk. My friend grabbed one and stuck it in the top of the lid and asked why I didn't use a stopper. OMG, my life has just changed. I got my driver's license while only using the clutch pedal for driving in reverse. Didn't even know you had to use your accelerator until my girlfriend pointed it out after having my license for over a year. In fairness to you, learning that your car can move with clutch control alone shows you've mastered manual transmission pretty well. It finally clicked for me when a friend showed me that. Had to explain to a friend of mine who was 19 at the time that large people were obese and not a beast. I had a friend who said that, but I thought he was just being derogatory, like calling fat people whales or hogs, or saying something is a beast to handle if it's too big. When you first walk into a Home Depot, there's always a stack of orange buckets by the entrance, and for the longest time I thought they were HD's equivalent of a shopping basket. I'd haul that thing around just throwing screws and hardware into it, and then just put it next to the cash register. When I was done, they'd always ask if I wanted the bucket too, and I just thought it was a clever way of selling more buckets. Only about a month ago did I realize they are just buckets, and everyone at HD just thought I was mentally imbalanced. That the reason baby vests have envelope shoulders is so that when they do a shit that explodes all over the vest, you can remove the vest downwards instead of lifting it over their head and smearing shit all over their head. If I don't smear poop on their heads, how else will they learn not to shit themselves? The fact pineapples do not grow on trees. They are just point plants. I didn't know this until I was hanging out with my friend and we were swimming in her pool. I got out and pointed to what looked like to me a weird spiky looking plant, and she looked at me completely dumbfounded. She just looked at me and said in a disappointed voice, "That's a pineapple." I felt like my whole life at this point was just a lie. For the longest time, I genuinely thought pineapples grew on trees. I learned at 27 how to properly clean a toaster. I did not know there was a trapdoor at the bottom of it. I showed an Ivy League alumnus friend of mine, and their mind was blown. My boyfriend until about 2 years ago, he was 21 when I had explained this to him. But he asked me to have dinner at his parents' house, and I asked what we were having and he said, roast beast. And I laughed at him making a Grinch joke, and then he asked me what I was talking about. I mentioned that he called the roast beast and that the Grinch reference was funny, and I realized he seriously had no idea what I was talking about, so I had revealed to my boyfriend that roast beast is not an actual thing, it's called roast beef, and roast beast was strictly a Dr. Seuss reference. He was a little embarrassed, but it was really, actually so adorable. Grapes on the front of raisin packages. My girlfriend told me last year that raisins and grapes are the same thing, and I laughed it off because that's nonsense. Then I saw the big grape on my raisin box. Yes, and I'm 33 years old. Q-tips. I'm British. We don't call them Q-tips, and I didn't know what they were until I was in my mid-20s and saw a meme with a photo of a Q-tip. I was genuinely shocked. People never actually use them in books/films, they just say stuff like "I think you need a Q-tip" if someone misunderstands something. I thought it was like saying "get a clue," and I'd always just assumed Q-tips were a reference to some kind of American game show, like the something for $100 thing, which we also don't watch in the UK. I'm doing a giveaway of 4 $25 Amazon gift cards when I reach 1500 subscribers. Like and subscribe to participate. I'm 6 feet 3 inches and had been driving my 2007 Chevy Silverado for 9 years before I realized I could lower the seat height. It had been at maximum elevation the entire time. First time in the past decade I've been able to see the sky out my windshield while driving. Reverse experience. I'm 5 feet 3 inches and had been driving for over a year before I realized it was possible to move the steering wheel down. I'd been craning my neck and driving with the top of the steering wheel crossing the middle of my view of the road before that. When I was a kid, we stayed in a guest house that had a dumbwaiter, something I'd never heard of before. I thought my parents were insulting the staff when they said that breakfast was arriving by means of a dumbwaiter until I saw it in operation for myself. The only reason I know what a dumbwaiter is because Harriet hid in one while spying in a book titled, wait for it, Harriet the Spy. Pipe cleaners. When I was a kid they were used for crafts and stuff and I just figured that they were used to clean, like, kitchen pipes. In my kid brain that kinda made sense. As I grew up I just never thought about it again really. Then one day in college I decide cigars are expensive and pipe tobacco seems much cheaper overall. Plus the rustic feel of a man on his porch reading with a tobacco pipe always appealed to me for some reason. So I went out and bought a cheap tobacco pipe, and while I was checking out the cashier asked me if I wanted pipe cleaners. The scales just dropped from my eyes. It took 20 plus years to learn that pipe cleaners were used to clean, you know, pipes. Potato peelers have a little indentation on the end of them. It's used to scoop out the black parts of potatoes that you don't want to eat. Black parts often referred to as the eyes. I had just bought my first house and needed to patch a hole in a bathroom fan exhaust duct in the attic. I was walking around Lowe's thinking, I wonder what sort of tape I should use for ducts. Then it hit me, duct tape for ducts. Now if anyone sees this, all of the comments below will be about how it's not actually good for ducts, should use the silver stuff, etc. But I definitely had that moment that day. That the pockets on suit coats / blazers, etc. and back pockets of slacks are loosely stitched closed and meant to be cut open. I spent a solid 4 years of my life as a pissed off pragmatist. Why the fuck would you put pockets just for show? Those assholes. One day, a friend heard my incessant bitching and goes, you know you just make a small snip and pull the thread out then the pockets are accessible. Goes to closet, snips open pockets. Well fuck me. I'm 43 years old. I only learned about 6 months ago that this little piggy went to market. Does not mean he went shopping for groceries. Someone fill me in. I'm now confused as to what that piggy was doing. Edit. Oh no. The whole poem is pretty dark. This little piggy went to market to be sold. This little piggy stayed home as breeding stock. This little piggy had roast beef, fattening up before slaughter, and this little piggy had none. Because you don't feed pigs right before you butcher them, and this little piggy went wee all the way home. He wasn't sold at the market and gets to live another day. I was at an antenatal class with my wife when the instructor shared a tip for making sure you let your baby feed from each breast an equal amount by taking it in turns, left/right. Which one you start off with? How do you remember which you started with? You use a hair tie. A few minutes later, she remarked, and don't forget to put the hair tie on your other wrist when you next do a feed. To which I remarked, rather too audibly for a room of 20 strangers, ooh, you put it on your wrist. Oops. I was a bit slow that day, and many other days. Not me but my dad. He always likes to look nice and put together. One day before church, I was maybe 14, I asked him if he had a lint roller. He got it for me, and it was absolutely covered in lint. So I ripped off the top sheet. Dad's eyes widened in shock. I always thought lint rollers were so expensive for how few times you could use them. He never knew there were more sheets underneath. Dad was in his mid-50s then. He hates when I tell that story. For years I have had this electrical outlet on my back porch that is really intermittent. Damn thing works about half the time, then stops working for a couple of weeks. Frustrating. About 6 years after I bought the house, I also figured out what that one switch in the living room does. You know the plastic hooks on vacuum cleaners that are used to wind the cord around? Well, the top hook will spin 180 degrees to release the cord, so you don't have to spend time unwinding. Didn't realize this till my wife showed me well into my 30s. This is going to give me seconds back to my life. Thank you. It took me 4 years of owning a car to realize I could spray washer fluid onto the rear windshield. I just assumed it only sprayed the front and I would just occasionally throw a bucket of water on the back if I needed to. Then one day I just noticed an odd symbol on a lever I hadn't seen before. Held that mother down for about 10 seconds before a massive gush of liquid burst out the back and changed my life for the better. Held that mother down for about 10 seconds before a massive gush of liquid burst out the back and changed my life for the better. /r/knock and text. Went into a store and purchased a nice suit for work, but forgot to bring the coupon I was going to use. I asked about it while checking out, and the girl told me she's sorry, but can't help me. She then placed the same coupon on the counter and asked if I had dropped it. I must have been distracted because I denied that it was mine 3 times before I finally understood she was trying to be nice and give me a coupon. Felt really dumb. My GF at the time dropped her cell phone into a pot of water. Didn't have water damage insurance. Did have theft insurance, as the employee pointed out 6 times. Someone commented with an almost perfect recreation, but I can't find it here. So here it is for your viewing pleasure. Sorry, we don't have water insurance. But we have theft insurance. Huh. We have theft insurance. Yeah, but it's water damaged, and we have theft insurance, ma'am. Yes, but, ma'am, we have THEFTINSURANCE. I'm confu. Theft insurance. We have it. Just letting you know in case you ever need it. Such as now. Clapperboards in movies. They are used as a visual reference to sync the audio and the video together in editing. Wait, so they are there to link up the clapping sound to the image of the guy clapping it shut? I always wondered what it was for. That's exactly it. Clapperboard goes clap in the audio track and smack in the videotape. You line that one bit up manually and then everything else will be lined up too. Plus, because it's so loud, audio editing programs with visualizers have an easily noticeable jump where the clapping is. I'd assume that the weird pattern on the board probably helps somehow too. Have you guys seen those escalators with the green lights shining through the steps? When I was very young, maybe 5 or 6 years old, I asked my dad what those lights were for. He told me they were for the blind. A few years ago, maybe, when I was about 23 or 24, I got on one of those escalators with lights again with a friend of mine. I wanted to tell my friend this little fact that my dad told me years ago about the lights and the escalators. But as soon as I wanted to explain, I realized my dad was trolling me the whole time. It took me just under 20 years to realize it. I was a housekeeper for someone years back when I was in the college. Side job, extra money. I would see short straws in the random places at the house where I worked. I usually just picked them up and threw it in the trash can. It took me 2 years to realize the person I worked for had drug addiction and he used the straws to snort the drugs. Now look back, I'm glad I wear gloves for cleaning other people's houses. I had no idea that salad spinners were to dry your salad. I thought they were to mix your salad dressing or some shit. We got one as a wedding gift, so I loaded one up, dumped some dressing in, and spun a ton of the dressing off of the salad. This made me think the product was to apply dressing flavor to all of your salad bits without dealing with all the calories that can come from overloading on dressing. So naturally I thought it was a total waste of time and money and tossed it into a cabinet never to be used again. A year goes by and I see a comment on Reddit about salad spinners and how they are such a game changer and so worth it, and I thought people were just batshit insane. Nope. I'm the idiot here. They are to dry your washed salad bits so you have nice, crisp, not soggy salad. I had no idea, and the box sure as hell didn't tell me that. After high school, I was working a temp job in a business remodel. The wood floors had been put in, and the contractor had a big roll of paper that he taped down to cover the floor to prevent scuffs and scrapes while the work continued. One time I touched the roll of paper and noted that it was somewhat sturdier than normal paper and reminded me of craft paper that we used in elementary school. I remembered that as a child, the teacher always called it doink, moment of realization, construction paper. You have a message from the learning man. Like and subscribe to learn something.